Hi, this is Jason Nickleby, Assistant Director with the Minnesota State High School League, and this is basketball officiating training tape number 7. Going to focus on our positioning, our adjustments on the floor, primary coverage areas, and some mechanics pieces in this tape. So, again, not picking on any one official or crew or team or player, just taking a look at these plays and learning from them and using them as a tool to work together as a crew to get better as we finish out the season here. So, with that, let's take a look at some plays. On this play, we're just coming into the front court and we established our initial position. Then we have a pick six going the other way and wanted to talk about coverage and our positioning and our mechanics. So, notice we're in the middle of a rotation as this ball is being stolen and dribbled the other way. The good thing here is the trail and the center pick up on this rotation, and so you'll notice that the new lead does come down correctly to the end line, and the center remains as the center, even though this turnover takes place in the middle of a rotation. So, very nice job by the trail and the center picking up this rotation, and then positioning themselves accordingly in transition going the other way. Now, something to point out, if we don't pick up on this rotation as the center trail, then lead, if you're the one that's in the middle of this rotation here, you would need to pick up on that as we're going up the court. You would notice that they didn't notice there was a rotation. They end up in the opposite spot. So if you're the lead, you just need to fill on the other side and come up as the new trail. So just something we need to be aware of as a crew. If we're in the middle of a rotation, when we have a turnover like this, if we pick it up, great. If we don't, lead, just fill in on the correct side, and then we should be in good shape as we move up the court. But very nice job of picking up on this rotation, even though there was a turnover in the middle of it, and then nice job of getting back, hustling back to view this action at the basket at the other end. But overall, very well done mechanically. We pick up on the rotation very well, and we position ourselves appropriately on the transition play. So very nicely done by the crew here. On this play, we're going to have a out of bounds play as the lead is in a middle of a rotation, and the center on the table side of the floor stays there, officiates the matchup, and then when the lead is coming across in this rotation, has this out of bounds play, he does put his hand in the air to indicate that the ball is out of bounds. So that's good. We're stopping the clock. But then he looks to the center for some help regarding the out of bounds. And the thing I like about this is if we give help like we do here, then we should point and say the color. Don't be bashful. Don't put like a little one finger in front of your chest. Don't whisper. Point, say the color loud so everybody knows what we have, so we can move forward with the next play. But we do a nice job here of providing help with good solid help mechanics here. The only thing I would say about this leads, if you're in the middle rotation, you have an out of bounds play like this. I like that we stop, but don't be so quick to indicate a direction, because you're in the middle of that rotation. You don't necessarily know if the ball got deflected or anything like that. You probably have a pretty good idea, but we don't want to guess. So just slow yourself down. Maybe take a look out at the center to see if there's anything that he or she has to offer to you as far as information. But let's not be in too much of a hurry. Hand in the air to indicate that the clock should stop, and then take a glance, look around to your crewmates, see if there's anything that they are ready to offer, and then we can indicate the direction for the next throw-in. So we do a nice job of help mechanics here. Just slow our mechanics down as the lead, maybe a little bit, so that we can take in any information before they give you an answer. We don't want to point one way and then have the center or the trail have to come in and fix it, and now we're going the other direction. It would be better if we just slow down, get the information, and then move forward. So good job with help mechanics here during the middle of this rotation. Okay, coming down in transition on this one as well, and we're going to have the initial matchup right in the paint, and we're going to have an offensive foul called by the lead here. So first of all, primary defender establishes an initial legal guarding position, and when we have a primary defender like this that establishes initial legal guardian position, they can establish that in the arc if they want. In this case, clearly outside of the restricted area, but can establish initial legal guardian position in the restricted area and still take a charge. But if you take a look here, as we said, has legal guardian position, plays right through them, certainly support an offensive foul, which is called. Couple things. One, remember when it's not involving a secondary defender, the primary official for ruling on plays on that half of the paint would be the center. So remember, we draw a line right down the middle of the paint, and it's on this side of that line. That should fall to the center as the primary official for ruling on that contact. The lead is in good position. He's closing down. To see this action, would prefer that he be stationary at the time of the contact, but we do close down, and that is good. We do have a pretty good look at this action, and so it's not a big stretch to have a call from lead here because there's nothing else in the paint at this time. But remember, our primary coverage area, draw a line right down the middle of the paint on primary defender matchups, and anything to that side of the paint would be the center's responsibility to take initially. Another thing to consider in a play like this is, if you notice, he picks up the pivot foot, which is the left foot, puts it back down, and then passes. So would probably support a traveling violation on this instead of an offensive foul, and that certainly should come from the center if that's the case. But it's real tight. We have to slow it down into super slow-mo to pick that up. But if you notice, picks it up, puts it back down, passes. So would certainly support a traveling violation. An offensive foul is also warranted here if we don't have a traveling violation, but would encourage the crew to discuss primary coverage area, who has initial responsibility for taking this play or not. We just want to avoid a blarge in a situation like this. But ultimately, like the call, like our mechanics of closing down, just discuss our coverage area and then the possibility of a traveling violation. In this play, I want you to take a look at the positioning of the center as this play develops and finishes. So we do a nice job of closing down on the shot attempt and then closing down further when the ball gets trapped a little bit there by the end line. We get into a good position to view the shooter up and down, make sure that if there's any contact that we get that, and we are stationary in most cases. One thing to say is on this initial matchup at the beginning of this play, it would be good if we just stayed put or worked beneath the matchup rather than coming out high, but we eventually adjust our position so that we're in good position to view rebounding action, assist when the ball is trapped down by the end line, and then we're in good position to see the violation at the end of this play as well. So good job of adjusting our position so that we can see this play better and be in good position to view what we need to view. So good job there. Then you see with the traveling violation, totally fine that the trail gets this. The pivot foot is established in the trail's area of initial responsibility, and the pivot foot is the right foot. picks it up, puts it back down, and then we have a shot attempt. So this is a traveling violation. Totally understandable why the center would not pick this up, because even though this ball handler ends up in the center's area of responsibility, remember drawing a line down the middle of the paint, the center is not going to pick up the pivot foot when it's established, because it's established outside of the lane. If you notice here on the replay, it's picked up right at the top of the lane, so in the lane, but just barely inside the paint, not in an area that the center is going to get a good look at it. He's looking through players, so this would be the trail's responsibility. Pick up the pivot foot, try to put them off the ground if at all possible from a philosophy standpoint with traveling, but in this case, clearly the right foot is the pivot foot as we do this spin move, picks it up, puts it back down. So this would be a traveling violation that we would want called. So just something to talk about, our primary coverage areas, who's responsible for what, and then getting back to the shot attempt, we do a really nice job of closing down even further, getting beneath the matchup so we can see contact and who's responsible for what. So nicely done on this play by the crew. We handle our positioning well. We are all working low, which allows us to officiate the high percentage plays, and we are able to pick up the traveling violation at the end of this play. Okay, lots of things going on in this play. So we have a transition play, and we're going to have a block charge play in the paint as we're going to the basket, and then we're going to have some action at the end of the play as well, which we'll look at the end of this clip. But notice we have contact with a defender, and we have to make a decision of player control foul or a blocking foul. Now, we don't have a restricted arc involved here. This is the lead's primary play to rule on, which he does, so that part is good. Let's take a look at the guarding rule. So remember, when we establish legal guarding position, 2 feet on the floor facing our opponent, and then we can maintain it legally by moving backwards, obliquely, rising vertically, and so forth. Nowhere in the rule does it say you need to be set. We've all heard that probably 1,000 times plus in our career, that they weren't set. They don't have to be. If they maintain legal guarding position legally and contact is in the torso, that the contact is, the responsibility for that contact would be on the dribbler. So let's take a look at this play. This is a really tough play, 50-50 play really, if I ever saw one. But keep in mind rules relative to charging, which is on page 30 of the rules book, says that if the guard obtains legal guarding position and maintains that legal guarding position legally, then the player with the ball shall get their head and shoulders past the torso of the defensive player. In such case, that would be a blocking foul if they are able to do that. If not, contact through the torso, then that would be an offensive foul. So if we take a look at this this play, this is really tough. It appears that maybe he gets his head and shoulders past the torso. Therefore, this would be a blocking foul, and that's what we have here. But wouldn't fault an official for calling one either way. Just be aware of legal guarding position rules, blocking and charging rules, and how they would apply. And remember, they don't have to be set in order to get a offensive foul to be called. And then the next thing that I want to look at is basket interference. And if you notice here that when the ball is on the rim, the defensive player makes contact with the net while the ball is on the cylinder, and that is on page 29 of the rules book, and says that it is basket interference when the player touches the ball or any part of the basket, including the net, while the ball is on or within either basket. So that's what we have here. That's what the official calls. And so when we're calling that on the defense, basket interference in this case, we're going to score the basket. We're going to shoot one free throw from the point of interruption. So that's how we would handle this. That's what we do here. Very well done. If this is the offensive team, we're going to wipe it out and shoot 2 free throws. But in this case, it's the defensive team that commits basket interference, and we handle this appropriately. One other thing to keep in mind, remember the ball has to be on or within the cylinder while we're touching the rim and or any part of the basket, including the net. So many times we see players touching the net and the ball is not on the rim or within the cylinder. That is not basket interference, and we do hear that quite a bit. But just be aware of that piece. But overall, this play, really tough play, but handled very well by the crew, by the lead in particular, who was able to pick up all aspects of this play, even though we probably would want the center to pick up the basket interference portion, because as the lead, we're handling the foul. But really interesting play, tough things to judge, but handled very well. I want to point out some mechanics and positioning pieces on this one. First, as the trail, we work a little bit higher. Let's just stay at that 28-foot mark. I think that will just leave us in really good position to view all of the action that takes place in this play. We do a nice job of trying to adjust so we can see space, so that part is good. But ultimately, the part I want to focus on is our lead's positioning. Notice he is mirroring the basketball. As it comes in, he closes down, stationary at the time of contact, gets the foul, certainly illegal contact through the shooter, provides continuation and scores the basket. So watch him mirror the basketball, stationary, close down, foul, and count the basket. This is excellent mechanics and positioning. This is exactly what we want to see, mirroring the basketball as the lead, closing down, and then be stationary at the time of this action. So excellent job by the lead, great mechanics and positioning, well done. Okay, we've talked about legal guarding position, how to maintain that, what we're looking for on several other plays. Here we have a blocking foul that's called against this defensive player who is the primary defender. Remember, if they get 2 feet on the ground facing the opponent and then maintain it legally, then any contact in the torso, the responsibility would be on the offensive player. So just make sure when we see plays like this, that we don't penalize the defense for playing legal defense. And maybe it's a no call, but if we have significant contact that puts somebody on the floor, then we probably need to have a whistle. Not saying that this isn't a blocking foul. In fact, it probably appears that he got the head and shoulders past the torso. But what I would say is this call definitely should not come from lead. Remember our areas of primary responsibility. I like that we close down as the lead. That's good. But any time that we have to dial a 1 in front of a call, it's too far. This is not in our primary responsibility area. It's almost by the 3-point line. The center has to live and die with this one. And if we miss it, we miss it. We can't officiate the whole court for our partners. We need to let them do what they are responsible for doing in their area and let them get those plays. For the most part, we really shouldn't come out of our responsibility areas, our primary coverage areas, unless it's a non-basketball play like a punch or a kick or something like that. Otherwise, this really needs to be the center's play. And I'm not saying it's not a blocking foul. It just should not come from lead. And because the way this play develops, there's no way the lead can initiate a rotation. So we're going to have to rely on the center to pick this one up. It's definitely a foul. Appears to be a blocking foul. That part appears to be correct. But we need to really focus on our primary coverage areas and really trust our partners, our crewmates, to officiate in theirs, whether it's a no call or a call. So again, discuss primary coverage areas, who's responsible for what, and then let's really just trust our partners and our crewmates. They're great officials. Give them a chance to make a call or no call, and then we'll move forward with the game. Transition play here, we hustle down to get in position, which is really good, and then we have another block charge play. As you can tell, this crew had their hands full with block charge plays in this game. And as we know, those are very difficult calls, and just some things to consider when we're judging these. Again, pick up the defender. Did they establish legal guardian position? Did they maintain it legally? Nowhere in the rule does it say that they have to be set at the time of contact in order to draw a player control foul. So with that in mind, let's take a look at this particular play and make a decision. So it looks like we face our opponent 2 feet on the ground. Looks like we slide to maintain that, and we get to that spot first. The offensive player doesn't get his head and shoulders past the defenders and puts contact right through the torso, as you can see here. So in my estimation, this is a player control foul. Now, will this be a popular call? No, it will definitely not be popular. If you call this a player control foul, everyone in the gym is going to howl, say they weren't set, they were moving, all those kind of things. But ultimately, the defender appears to establish legal guardian position and maintain it legally, and the contact by the offensive player is through the torso. So my feeling is this is an offensive foul. The good thing is the proper official makes the ruling. He gets into good position. Would be nice if we were stationary, but ultimately really good hustle to get down there and make a ruling on this action. And it's a really tough play. Block charge plays are really hard. Some of the hardest judgments we have to make as basketball officials. So just things to consider: legal guardian position. Did they maintain it legally? Who's responsible for the contact? Where does the contact occur? Displacement, all those kind of factors go into making a judgment on block charge plays. Just understand or know that they do not have to be set. If they can maintain it legally, we need to try to reward defenders for doing so. Okay, that will do it for training tape number 7. Lots of really tough judgments in this particular game, especially as it relates to block charge. Don't like to be critical on judgments because I've never missed a call when watching it on video. I'm 100% so far. And these officials had to make decisions in real time, and I appreciate the difficulty of those decisions and just some considerations when we make judgments on these kind of plays. Get our nose in the rules book, make sure we understand guarding position, verticality, how to maintain those things, who's responsible for the contact, is there displacement, all those kind of factors. And again, those things make officiating basketball very difficult, and we're doing a great job. Just some things to consider. Stay safe and healthy out there. We're into the stretch run here, heading into the postseason in a few weeks. Keep up the good work. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.